Well, I just got this call one day, and it was Disney saying, how would you like to be involved in the design of this movie? And it was like a dream for me, because I've always been a great Disney fan since I was a child. John Musker told me that apparently he'd known my work as a boy as he was growing up in Chicago, because I'd had an exhibition there of my sculptures, and also he'd seen my work for Time magazine. I used to do Time magazine covers of the Beatles and Rowan and Martin and Rockefeller and so forth. And he'd seen all these, and then I came to Los Angeles about 4 years ago with Magic Flute, which I did with Peter Hort. And they seemed to like that, and the combination of all these things convinced them that they should write to me. This is the original script here, and it's written in a sort of a brilliant manner, and they know how to trigger the artist's imagination. So every stage direction and bit of dialogue I read made me think of a scene immediately, and I couldn't draw fast enough. These ideas kept flowing out of me. And I think originally they only wanted me to send maybe, a dozen or so drawings, but I think I blasted them with about 40 drawings immediately. My part in the movie developed, and then I became production designer, and I designed all the characters in the movie, and they said they wanted me to influence the whole look of the thing. The character of Hercules is very difficult. I think I'm slightly intimidated by knowing that he is the lead in the film, and that he's got to be good looking, and he's got to be the hero. I'm afraid I think I have more ease drawing the wicked and the underworld, but this in a way has to be a conventionally good looking man. I started by going to the British Museum and looking at various sculptures and Greek vases. What most people know about Hercules is the story of the labors of Hercules, where he had all these labors to complete before he was accepted. He had to fight the Nemean lion, the Stymphalian birds, clear out the Augean stables. The film does contain that, but it's all truncated. And it's really a story, I think, about Hercules as an innocent young man, feeling that his muscles and his strength are all that he needs, but finding, ultimately, that he really needs an inner strength and the love of a good woman.
Long ago, in the faraway land of ancient Greece, there was a golden age of powerful gods and extraordinary heroes. And the greatest and strongest of all these heroes was the mighty Hercules. But what is the measure of a true hero? That is what our story is about.
Listen to him? He's making this story sound like some Greek tragedy.
Lighten up, dude.
Well, I come out sporadically. I mean, a lot of it is done by me sending drawings across. I will work for maybe a month on a batch of drawings, and then maybe I'll come with them, or maybe I'll send them. Randy, I wanted to go over this business. With young Herc, you remember, I kept saying to you, these feet are too big, these calves are too bulbous.
and I sent you drawings, and you took no notice at all. What do you have to say to yourself?
I wanted to really push the shapes and the proportions like you do in your drawings. And part of it, too, was just to emphasize his awkwardness. You know, when I was a teenager, I had a size 11 foot at 5'7" or whatever I was, you know.
I felt that Randy, the animator, was making the feet far too big and making the calves far too bulbous. In fact, here's a note to Randy. At the risk of offending the brilliant Randy, I still think the hands, calf muscles and feet are too large. So I'm continually trying. You see this large hand here, and I've taken it down to that size. And maybe these large feet will get through into the movie.
I am on my way. I can go the distance. I don't care how far. Somehow I'll be strong. I know every mile will be worth my while. I would go most anywhere to find where I belong.
I've been able to see the process right the way through. I not only make the designs, I help the animators through their various stages. There are about 12 or 14 supervising animators, and each one takes a major character. They then liaise with me, and we decide how that character will move, walk, talk. There are 24 frames per second. The main animator draws the main drawings. The in-betweeners do all the little boring drawings in between. Those rough animations are then filmed, and when they're finally doing the right sort of action, it is then passed to the cleanup department. They place a piece of paper over the top of the animator's drawings, and they trace, with a very precise line, the animation underneath. After that, it goes on to tape in the computer, and it's then colored in the computer. I don't know whether it's going to work, but I am trying at every stage of the movie to intervene right the way through. So I hope ultimately that it shows in the movie. I hope there is a unity and a one-world feeling to it.
He was really a seminal artist in terms of defining the style of this movie. If he'd just come in as an inspirational artist, they would have slipped back to doing what they were comfortable with.
I mean, do you resent someone coming in and saying, and the director saying, this is the way we would like it to be? Is it something which is very, very different?
It's nice for a breath of fresh air.
I think it's great. It pushes us to do things creatively that we normally wouldn't do.
Sure.
Sometimes you tend to fall into the rut of drawing characters a certain way and everything. But with your style being so un-Disney, it's pushing us to explore shapes, like, for example, the beard shape, something that I wouldn't think of on my own, and it's neat.
This is the character of Hades, with whom I've had the most trouble. He is a god, although he's been thrown out of Olympus. I've done many, many drawings of him. every drawing is an experiment, and I think one has to be prepared with a drawing to be completely courageous. You've got to, in a way, destroy it in order to create it. I always thought that he should have this, this very cool, smoky, sardonic side. But then when he gets angry, he absolutely blazes and bursts like a sort of fireball into anger.
Oh, yeah.
So you've got the two sides of his character, this rather laid-back, cool side.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I think, though, probably... Boy, see, the one thing I love about your drawings is you're very intricate and things like that. And that's where the Disney part comes in. We're going to have to simplify some of this down just because I don't... cleanup would kill me if...
All those lines are in
all
there.
the fire things.
Sure. But overall, they are sort of simple, basic shapes. I mean, by the time you cleaned that up there, you've just got a sort of a shape like that.
Oh, yeah. I don't really think he actually gets to this point. This is way beyond anything that we've done, but it sure gives us an indication.
What to change from that face to that face.
Oh, yeah.
Gerald likes to draw just the extremes. He wants to just give you the image and the pose. I don't think Gerald's a man who really wants to draw 24 drawings for every single second of every single frame. Secondarily, his drawings are very loose. They will wiggle and move all over the frame, where animation does need to have things that are a little more tied down and not quite so loose, because I think your eye can't sustain that for 70, 90 minutes. For a 4-minute short or 5-minute short, I think the style might be really interesting, but I think over the long term, it'll be distancing you from the character and the emotion of what you want besides just great art.
I always remember as a child going to see Snow White and seeing the witch there, and it was absolutely frightening. But I knew at the end of the film I was okay because the witch died, and I think children can take a lot.
Poison apple.
I'm sure Disney know all about this. They know how far to push it. But I always think that they could be pushing further, and the villains could be truly villainous. Disney pulls its shots occasionally, and they look. When they get their comeuppance, they look stupid and they have kind of appealing eyes and what's happened to me? I would like to maintain a villain through to the very end.
What was that name again?
Hercules. He comes on with his big innocent farm boy routine, but I could see through that in a Peloponnesian minute.
Okay, so basically, as you can see, I've indicated some of the flames up here, but I think the big...
What was that name again?
Hercules.
I think at that point, he's inquiring, so he's still a little cool, but at that point, he explodes.
What was that name again?
Hercules. He comes on with his big innocent farm boy routine, but I could see through that in a Peloponnesian minute.
Wait a minute. Wasn't Hercules the name of that kid we were supposed to... Oh, my God! Run!
So you took care of him, huh? Dead as a doornail. Weren't those your exact words?
Hades' two sidekicks are Pain and Panic, and one of them I conceived, Panic, as a sort of panicky little figure with kind of wide eyes, continually in a sort of panic. He's the guys that do all the bad work. In my drawings for the animators, I try and suggest, although it's a single drawing, what the character and what the action could be. So if he looks rather uncertain like this, the animator will pick that up and include it in his action. The other one is Pain. And he's a more... He actually has the voice of Bobcat Goldthwait. And
He's got a voice like that. He's just banging and screaming all the time.
often when I'm drawing something, I can hear the sound. I can hear the droning voice of John Major, or the plummy tones of Ted Heath, or the strident tones of Margaret Thatcher. It helps sometimes when I'm painting to sort of go around the forms of the watercolour, because then the lines that the brush takes helps to give it a form. And that's sort of imagine the anatomy with the brush. So you're stroking a three-dimensional object, so to go around the belly, and then that way you hopefully get some sort of form into it.
One always has to be careful with an artist of his sensibilities. They can be very upset very easily if you tell them something isn't right. You have to find a diplomatic way of saying it, of course. You can't say that is an awful drawing. Find another way of putting it.
The fact that the little bit of movement that happens on him, it almost kind of gives him a cute quality to it, you know? The fact that every time he kind of teeters over, like to walk somewhere, his little wings kind of flap, and it just kind of, just that little tiny subtle movement kind of gives it a little cute quality to it, which I think.
What you're saying is you wanted him to look cute.
Yeah, I think I wanted him to have like a cuteness to him, even though he was a villain. Kind of like a cute little villain, you know?
Is that what you call the Disneyfication side of it? I mean, do you feel that, you know, a villain is a villain? Why does he have to look cute?
Well, I think that's just a little special quality that I want to put in this guy. This is an original concept of what I wanted design to look like.
Which I didn't like.
Yeah, this is, very much so. You can kind of see what I was talking about with the flesh around the eyebrows to get it expressive.
Has he got a kind of a pig nose there or something?
Yeah, he has like a big, bulbous nose, And, he has like the big, 2-foot thing.
That's kind of going towards the style that worries me.
Right.
And it's a type of cartooning I suppose I don't really like. It's when you have a leg that's got a knee like that, and then it comes down and it's got every kind of little kink in it you can imagine. And then it goes, and then you've got big toes here sticking out like that. And then you've got the heel here, like this. And then, the calf there, and then it's to me, that's kind of ugly drawing. Then they always put hairs in. That was the kind of drawing I just didn't want at all. I can't draw Matisse, but this is kind of the way I was hoping it would all go, towards simplicity. If it was a woman's back, that the back would be simply a shape like that. And that would be a head up there. So, and then her arm would be... He did extremely kind of economic line work.
Yeah, actually that's really good for animation, especially.
And it is, yes, and that's really where I was hoping I would go. But a lot of people read my drawings as being extremely complicated and having many, many lines, which they do. But when I get as far as cleanup, that's really where I'd like to go. Well, with Pegasus, I was always slightly frightened that we would get the old kind of... Dobbin-like horse, that kind of thing, like that. I was just worried that it would turn into that sort of horse. Whereas Pegasus, of course, is a horse of the gods, and well, first of all, I took my inspiration from this wonderful horse here that I've got a model of, which comes from the British Museum. I know, of course, that's never going to get into the film, but I'm going to try my best to get something like that. And taking this kind of line and this kind of elegance, I went on to try and get a sort of flow of line into it. thought very early on that he should have a Trojan mane. This kind of elegant, simple shape here, like this. I guess in a way, my head is quite small, and I think some of the heads you've been doing are getting very large.
Yeah, I think with the smaller head, it makes him a lot more elegant, especially with the longer line.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at this, then I'm thinking that I want to go to this.
Yeah, so these are much better. It's getting more towards a sort of more of a thoroughbred now, isn't it? It's not so much the old farm horse Dobbin.
Yeah, and it looks a little. It's a little more ethereal, more like this is a horse that could fly.
Yeah, although I always thought Pegasus would be an elegant horse, he is getting slightly sort of coarser here. But even so, I noticed even when I slim down, I'm still perhaps not slimming down as much as I should do. I'm affected by Disney, in effect. There's a sort of a crossover here. I'm getting, because I'm working with them at this size, I'm getting pulled towards the Disney way of doing it.
What he does, and these are the roughs here. He's being hugged by, that's supposed to be young Herc, and he's being hugged, and he steps out of the hug into this magnificent pose, like aren't I terrific?
Yeah.
And then he does this silly walk, sort of like a pigeon, where he sticks his neck way out. And then he ruffles his feathers.
Right.
And he comes up into this peacock pose. So I succeeded in making an elegant horse act silly.
Very good.
Pegasus!
He's a magnificent horse with the brain of a bird.
One can understand, given Disney's skills of anthropomorphic animals, that a winged horse would go down very well. To anyone who knows even a little about ancient myth, suddenly to find Hercules mounting Pegasus is a great surprise. One is immediately alerted to the fact this has really got very little indeed to do with the Hercules story that we know.
Anatomy has always been very important to me because I think as a child, I was an asthmatic child. I drew a lot as a child in bed, but I always felt the lack of education. And not only the lack of normal education, but the lack of art training, because I didn't really ever go. I went for a short time to St. Martin's School of Art and a very short time to the Royal College of Art. But I was always trying to draw what I thought was properly. And I always, this book is always on my desk. It's simply a sort of medical book. So even when I'm drawing these distorted caricatures, I would still like to think they could move. They've got bones underneath this distorted shape. With the 3 feet, so it's just a skull-like shape. And then I think very, very skeletal shoulders. I'll tell you what worried me about these is that they didn't have any construction. They didn't have any reality about them. Although they're grotesque characters, I thought they should have some sort of structure behind them. And I felt that there was no body within this figure here. You know, I couldn't see. It looked to me as though they ended at their knees down here. In other words, you can see this. It looked as though they were that short to me. And even the little short one, she should have a little short body with little short legs, and not just kind of end nowhere, which is what you were doing.
But it worked out, actually, that John and Ron liked the idea of not having a body, but having volume. If you look at the model of the Tropo, she's actually the most three-dimensional of the three.
Mm-hmm.
And here the assistants called me up and asked, does she have feet? And I told my lead, Gail, to say, tell them no, don't worry, she doesn't have any feet. They by then had turned into very graphic figures. And this was okayed by Ron and John, and they were not human at this point.
I noticed on one of your drawings, I think you had the nose of Lettice's somehow like this with a nostril up there.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like this, which looked to me kind of crude.
That's the earliest one.
Yeah, and then I sent back this drawing to you, which had the nostril following the line of the nose more.
Mm-hmm.
So that I felt it was more streamlined, more elegant. Because although these characters are weird and grotesque and wonderful, I still think they can be elegant. They still can have an elegant line.
We wound up with a compromise so that the nostril is very long and following the line of her cheek rather than all the way down to the end of the nose. That was not approved. I do have to please the directors here.
There's a certain formulaic approach that can creep into your drawing, and I think that was the challenge of Gerald's drawings, was to sort of blast some of the learned habits away from the animators, and I think they embraced that challenge. But it's like anything you do, a series of repetition or whatever, you have a certain muscle memory and just a certain convenience and a certain thing that feels easy, and it's a little more painful, more struggle, more new muscles have to be developed.
A certain amount of cartooning I find grotesque, I suppose, in the wrong sort of way. I mean, my drawings are grotesque, but I do try and make elegant drawings of grotesque subjects. As an artist working in my studio, I have complete control over what I do. Whatever comes into my head comes out on the paper. Now, when I'm working in a collaborative situation and someone else is interpreting my drawings or designs in the theater, then there's a certain amount of compromise. Obviously, that person who's doing the interpretation isn't me. Managing 800 people is just not possible. You can't see all those artists. All you can do in that case is deal with the main artists.
These look great. These are really nice. I have to tell you something, though. We'll never get that in a Disney cartoon.
Yeah, there are no backsides in Disney?
Well, they have a history of backsides in their films, but, this is the 90s. Yeah. We have to be careful, so we'll indicate his goatee features a little bit more subtly, shall we say.
I was trying to get this sort of Danny DeVito look there.
That's great. I love the great graphic shapes you've got going here.
You sure this is the right place? What's the matter, little guy? You stuck?
Whoa! Hey, what out, buddy? Ugh.
Well, this is the part of the film where we introduce Phil to the audience. Hercules has come to seek him out as a hero trainer and to enlist his services. So he's trying to prove to Phil at this point, how strong he is. So he says, watch this, and he picks up this huge piece of statuary. And he throws that off into the distance, so it becomes a little dot.
Holy Hera. Maybe if I... No, snap out of it. I'm too old to get mixed up in this stuff again.
Herc cuts him off. But if I don't become a true hero, I'll never be able to rejoin my father, Zeus. Cut to this disbelieving expression of Phil.
Hold it. Zeus is your father, right?
Uh-huh.
Hold it. Zeus is your father, right?
Part of the fun of doing these animation projects is how they cast people. And they don't necessarily cast us for our physical attributes, but they do cast us on, how they feel the characters will be best animated, the types of personalities that we have and the types of personalities we're good at animating. And, it's like casting actors in a live-action movie, really. And, of course, a few people have said, well, gee, Phil, he's kind of short, he's kind of bald, and he's kind of overweight. And so I walk down the hall, and people go, hi, Phil, instead of hi, Eric. So it's...
You're also like Danny DeVito, but a lot better looking.
Oh, thank you so much.
So you want to be a hero, kid? Well, whoop-de-doo. I
I have been around the block before with blockheads just like you. Each and every one a disappointment, pain. Each and every one a disappointment, pain, for which there ain't no ointment. So much for excuses. Go a kid of Zeus's, asking me to jump into the frame.
I suppose I'm having most purchase really in the more wicked creatures.
I think in the main characters, Disney is very much there. But I think Disney are convinced that they are making a huge leap in my direction. If the heads were writhing like this, like a snake pit, they look far more menacing. And I always felt that in the eventual movie, that they would writhe like this until they had one purpose, such as striking at Hercules. And when they would pull back in unison and strike forward. But up until then, they were looking into a snake pit. I did many drawings of the Hydra. I've seen to be so many possibilities and such an exciting creature to do. One head giving birth to another head, birth to another head.
It's interesting that there are certain things that, like the many small teeth, that even that level of complexity, which doesn't particularly strike you when you're doing one, perhaps, but for us to animate, for someone to draw all those teeth on every frame would really be overwhelming. So one of the happy coincidences of bringing the Hydra to life on the computer is that besides the complexity of 30 heads, we could have the complexity of having 41 teeth on every one of those heads. This is a film where every other character in the movie is drawn by hand with a pencil. So that means that we have to make the computer character move with the same kind of freedom and flexibility. So on the computer, the skeleton we build is made up of a series of hinges, and then we can literally tweak each one of those to a varying degree so that we can create different shapes and poses, and we can get the kind of drag that we're going to want when that Hydra, her mouth wide open, is whipping through the air. We want that whole jaw to be able to swing from left to right. The other thing that we were able to do with the computer, though, is achieve a level of dimensional camera work that really is very unusual for a hand-drawn film, because moving the camera around dimensionally, really loosely, is very tough to draw. And so we were able to go ahead and do scenes like this, where Hercules is struggling to stay on Pegasus and literally flying in and among these attacking Hydras. And we even created this very simple representation of Pegasus and Hercules that we printed out and gave to the animators so they could use that simply as a perspective guide.